Welcome to Hit the Bricks. Today we're going to be taking a look at using this pink insulation foam as a basis for the layout of this Lego city. So I'm not totally unfamiliar with using this. However, I would not say I'm an expert either. So this will be a city update and kind of a tutorial, but also just kind of a ride along, if you will, on the adventure of using this and seeing how it works as far as a base for a Lego city. So I went with this pink foam insulation for a couple different reasons. The first reason I went because it would actually physically fit in my vehicle. So as a previous model railroader when I was a kid, which is quite a while ago, I would use plywood. My father and I built a custom table out of plywood, and he used 2x4s and different things to build up the elevation and some pink foam for that elevation as well. But using plywood wouldn't work for me so well right now because I can only fit, the biggest section I could fit in my vehicle is a 4x5 section, which happens to be this one right here. So that's as large as I could get in there. Because in the United States, this sheet of foam or a piece of plywood normally comes in a 4 foot by 8 foot piece. Now this, in the parking lot, I could score it and break it myself and put it in there and do everything myself. It's very light, didn't need help to get the plywood or a saw to cut it or what have you. So that really made it the obvious choice to go with as far as being able to transport it. Now, speaking of transporting, this is a rental property. I don't own this this place, so I will hopefully be moving in the next couple of years into a more permanent location. So that being said, the IKEA table is pretty easy to move. The legs unscrew, and they're fairly light to move them. This is also, like I said, fairly light to move, very light actually, compared to trying to do plywood tables that you screw together or nail together, and then you have obviously plywood just being heavier. So this made sense on a few different levels. So that's the two first reasons why I went with the foam board. Now the other is because I wanted to do something special with this table, and I wasn't just using these boards just to get some more size, because obviously I do over the IKEA tables being 29 inches wide and about 5 feet long. This allows me to get more real estate as far as that goes for the Lego. However, what I want to do is something also kind of taken from model railroading, at least from what I've seen, is do some curved edges here and do some different shapes around it to give it a little bit more interest. It's a little more interesting, at least to me, because I've never done it, so I want to try it. Full disclosure, I'm not sure how this is going to work out. But we're going to go on the journey together. I'm going to start from scratch here. I'm going to try to do videos of planning it out and cutting it out and try to show everything, just in case you're interested in maybe learning this, you haven't done it before, you want to see if it works or not. If you haven't subscribed, now's the time to do so and hit the bell notification if this interests you, if there's something you might want to consider, because I'm going to try to show as much as I can of this process, whether it's a big win and it looks great, or it's an epic fail and I go back to the IKEA tables. I don't know which one it's going to be, but I guess we'll find out in the upcoming weeks. We'll see what happens. So the foam itself is pretty easy to cut. You can use a hot wire cutter, which you just plug in and it kind of melts it just like butter. Or you can use a knife and cut it. A lot of times that's used in model railroading if you want to do like textures and you want to do like a rocky type area or something, which may or may not want to do for the Lego. I'm really only planning to use this for the base and some larger elevation. I'm not really planning on using it for a technique for landscaping or anything. Plan to stick with all Lego for that. It's still going to be 100% Lego table as much as any other Lego table. So a lot of people use a plywood or something underneath to build it up to save on the bricks, so you have the bricks for the other things that you actually see. Same concept here, so really just sticking with Lego on that. I'm not planning on merging really the model railroading and the Lego railroad and city. Just using this as a basis to start with. So you can cut it with a knife, you can cut it with a hot wire cutter, or you can use what I'm going to use, which is a power saw, like a jigsaw or something to that effect. And that's what I'm going to use because I'm cutting kind of a larger area here. So this is going to be cut kind of parallel to this track that I have here. And that's one of the reasons why I have this track here, to kind of show you that I want to do this big sweeping turn. And then I'm going to have this area that kind of comes out here, because this is going to be a spot for a lighthouse. And let me explain that right now. So imagine this area here, this empty type area that I'm walking in. Imagine that, if you will, as water. So this whole middle section, all water. So if we come over here, this would be where the ships would come in from sea, and they would go through this like a channel type area or this inlet into a bay or a harbor, if you will. So that's what I envision. And here I plan to have this rounded area have water on the side. And I'll explain how I plan to do that in just a moment. But this is going to be water here. Also water coming in this area here. So this flex track will actually be raised up into at least this section here, being some water underneath it, so a small bridge. And then the lighthouse here to guide these ships that are coming in this way. So I want to have like this rocky point sticking out here that's going to have a lighthouse. And also, speaking of lighthouses, I want to have a lighthouse on the other side as well, the other side of the bay, to help direct the ships in there. Now, one of the lighthouses I plan to have to be a manned lighthouse, like the bigger lighthouses you see, and maybe the lighthouse keeper's small residential area next to it. On the other side, that would just be an automated smaller lighthouse, like a beacon type thing. I'm not sure what side is going to have the larger one. It's really going to depend on which one has more real estate. But I am going to make this spot here for one of the lighthouses. So I'm really excited to get that. It's one of the main things in my head, was to have this area and have the two lighthouses and have the ships directed in there. So that's why I've got this area, this sweeping turn here, so I can have the water go underneath. And that's also why I'm using this flex track. And I know flex track is not the most popular. It's not the most popular because of aesthetically, it doesn't maybe look as good to most people as the actual, the regular railroad track here. This is the old 9-bolt, but even the plastic traditional track like this is more well received aesthetically than the flex track. Now, in my opinion, I agree. I agree that I still like the old 9-bolt with the steel rails. Reminds me of the model railroad. It just gives it a little bit of uniqueness because there's not too much metal in Lego, right? So it kind of stands apart there. So I do like that. However, I will say the flex track in certain areas, if it's standing alone, like this is over this bridge type area, I actually think it kind of adds something because it's unique to that area. So as long as it's unique to the area, let's say a bridge type situation, or even a rail yard. If it's just in the rail yard and you have all the flex track that you have maybe in the rail yard, I think it looks good because it's different from the rest of it and kind of sets it apart. So I have no problem with this whatsoever. The other thing that people generally don't like about the flex track is the noise that it makes compared to the other track. I understand that there is a difference between it. In my opinion, all the trains are noisy, so if it's a different clickety-clack on this compared to that, I'm okay with it. Because I'm getting some benefits that I think outweigh those negatives, and that is this larger radius turn. I think it just looks more realistic, especially when you have the larger cars like this going through it. Look at the angle that it has here. It kind of looks right. It looks correct. And if we put it on the tighter the normal, I guess, radius turn. To me, this is hanging off like quite a bit. Don't know if that really looks quite right to me. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm gonna have plenty of that around here because I'm not gonna be able to do this wide radius turn. So I don't have a problem with it. It's just when you get into these larger cars like this, I think it looks better on the larger radius turns, but it's not really easy to do that on the Lego train layouts just because you need a lot of space. And you really need a lot of flex slack as well. So anyway, so that's why I'm going with this here. So that's why we're doing this. And like I said, we're gonna cut this out here like that. And I'll do that in just a moment. We're gonna do that in this video. I'll show you how that's done. But before we get into that, let me kind of give a city update, an overview of what I'm planning here. So this area here, I'm kind of calling the Midtown Loop or what have you with this train, this bigger area here. Because when you walk in the door, this is what you see. So I kind of want this to be like a wow. When you walk in the door, it's like we got this bridge and it's just kind of a central point that draws your eye along with the lighthouse. Beyond that, over here we have the southern docks. So this is going to be commercial docks along with a small rail yard that's going to have the 9-volt, at least the 9-volt tracks going on it as far as the rail yard goes. I plan to use both the 9-volt and the power functions because I have both available to me. The 9-volt that's going here is going to be part of this docks, and it's going to go all the way around to the other side over here in this corner, and that's going to be a rail yard. That's going to be the northern rail yard there. So what I'm thinking is, the ships come in from sea, they go to the dock, they unload their catch of the day, whether it be lobsters or crab or fish. They unload it into the freight cars. Then I'll have a small switcher engine or something like that that will then take that freight all the way around the table to the northern train yard, which will be picked up by trucks or what have you and then taken into the city. So that's my thought process there. So we've got the southern docks, we have the northern train yard, we have the central loop type area, and then the rest of it will be filled in with green space, somewhat of a city, and then a residential area. So that's what I'm thinking for the overall scheme. Like I said, I'm going to try to show as much of this process as I can in case it's interesting to you. You want to see how it works, especially maybe with the pink foam, building it up, using it for elevation, and just having those different curves and just kind of more of a custom table than sometimes what we see. So that's overall what I'm thinking. So the next step will be in the process here is to draw on here this kind of half circle I'm thinking, and then also this area that's going to be out for the lighthouse. So we're going to draw that out, and then we're going to cut that out and see what it looks like. Okay, so now we need to draw out here where we want to be cutting. So what I'm using is, I'm just using this track here so I can get a decent half circle. So kind of putting it where I want it to be, which is a little off center. I don't want a half circle like this because I want it more biased to this side. I want the circle more over here, so I have more of this area for that lighthouse that I want to put there. So just kind of getting a little bit past halfway. The nice thing about the track is they've got these little spots in the end where they click together, so I can kind of use that to guide this pen in here. So it's gonna go like this. Gives me an idea. Now this I'm going to kind of cut around and make this kind of a rounded area, and then I'm gonna taper off towards that closet door because I have to be able to open that, but that'd be a different board. So for right now, I'm just going to concentrate on this right here. So going back to this area here, kind of line this up where I wanted it, the starting point. So going all the way around here, even though I'm going to have the lighthouse area here anyways, but I want to at least have that kind of drawn out. So that's the half circle. Hopefully that's somewhat showing up on the camera. So that's a half circle there. So if you're wondering how to ever draw and trace out a half circle or full circle, just get something like that and find your center point and trace around it. It's just kind of a helpful little hint there. So this here is where I want to have a lighthouse. So this I'm just going to kind of, freestyle it and just kind of draw it where I'm thinking that I want it to go. And now the saw that I use is pretty precise, but I'm giving myself a little bit of leeway here. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect as far as this goes, because I don't have to totally follow these lines if I don't want to. But this is kind of what I'm thinking here. And then this will go something like this effect, and then we'll keep that kind of wavy type, like it's a shoreline. All the way around. I mean, that's what I'm going for. This I'm doing perfectly as a circle just because I wanted to parallel that track. I think that'll look interesting, but the rest of it, I just want more of a natural looking shoreline that's not going to have any perfectly straight lines, unless there's a wall there, some kind of a breaker wall or something, which I could do in some areas, but not for this area because I've got the lighthouse. So here I've got it drawn out. So we're going to next grab the saw, and we're going to cut this. So let me grab the saw, and then we're gonna cut this out so we can see what it looks like. Okay, let's get cutting this table here. I would recommend using some kind of safety goggles if you're going to do this. I know it's only styrofoam, but what I'm using is a power tool. So this is a Dremel, this is a moto saw, like a jigsaw type. So it's still a blade on there. So it doesn't hurt to have this. This is in my mountain biking glasses. So whatever you've got, just something to protect your eyes. So let's go ahead and get this done and see what it looks like. Okay, so here we go. This is what we ended up with. This is pretty much what I envisioned, what I wanted, so I'm happy with that. Here's this rounded area that I was drawing out there. This is something that will probably be, I will take a block sander to this and just finish that off and make it nice and round. Not something I will do to every part of it, but this I want to look nice and finished here for this, so I will sand this part. And then this is where you have the lighthouse. So imagine that's a lighthouse. And then we can just go ahead and imagine that's a lighthouse as well. So this is what I'm thinking about as far as the ships coming in here and having the two lighthouses and helping them navigate into the harbor. So this is, let's move the flex track back in here just so you can kind of visualize that. Like this here. Again, kind of wrapping around, so that wider radius turn. Gonna have something like this. Like I said, this will be water. This would be water in here. So, there. So this gives you a good idea of what I wanted to do. So this is also giving me a good idea of what the rest of the board is going to be looking like with these curved edges. Like I said, I'm going to paint them. I'm going to paint the edges black and paint whatever color of bricks is going to be close to it. I'm going to try to paint that, whether it be the blue, the gray, or the green, what have you. So this area here is going to be tapered in a little bit, but I want to get that board, which has the northern rail yard, I want to get that mapped out because that cuts, I got to cut that for that closet door there. So I didn't do this yet because I want to see how that's going to go. So if this is something that interests you, stay tuned. Like I said, this is what I'm going to be doing for the next several videos, to really try to take you along with it. So it's kind of a journey that we can share together and hopefully learn as we go. If you have any comments on it, I'd love to hear them, good, bad, or just an opinion on it, because that helps too, and I actually like reading them. If you like this video, please hit the like button. That really helps out a lot as well. And I think I'm going to leave it at that for this particular segment. Next time we're going to go ahead and do the other board. So we're going to go ahead and cut out that, map that out, and keep going around here and get this all to look like this, where it's cut out and it has this interesting and customized board for the Lego City. So with that, I am actually going to do some. I'm going to do some drawing for the rest of the table and figure out exactly where I want everything to go. So thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.